Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our city council meeting. We'll go ahead and, wait, are we all up here? Yeah. We'll go ahead and get started with an invocation, which we observe by having a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you take the roll, please?
Bajent.
Here.
Clegg. Here. Halliburton.
Here.
Sanchez.
Here.
Willetts. Here. Woodings. Here. All present.
Thanks. And next up is a request for approval of the minutes from our work session and evening meeting last week.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the city council minutes for the work session and regular evening meeting of November 29th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Woodings. Yes. Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, we've got under special business, DRH 2274 revised findings. Hi, Josh.
Hi. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. On November 15th, City Council denied the appeal of DRH 22-00074, directed staff to return with revised findings and revised conditions of approval for adoption. Those have been included in your packet, and we would ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Josh?
Madam Mayor, just one question. Let's see. Condition H is replace the no.
Oh, council member, your mic's not on.
It went off. Sorry. Condition H says replace the proposed Norway maples with class 2 trees. I think what we talked about was class 2 or 3.
Okay. Madam Mayor, Council President Clegg, I believe that's correct, and we can make that change easily.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we accept the revised findings and reasons statement for DRH 22-00074, 8675 South Warehouse Way.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk?
Woodings. Yes. Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, we've got an appeal. Oh, wait, it's a reconsideration request of the appeal of PUD 2165. Hi there. Delaney,
Yep.
welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before you is a request for reconsideration of appeal PUD 21-00065, property located at 9474 West State Street. Just a quick background here. The application was initially heard in July at Planning and Zoning, where the PUD was approved with the added condition to signalize the intersection. The applicant subsequently filed an appeal of the imposed condition because it was not supported by substantial evidence and was arbitrary and capricious. On November 1st, City Council approved the appeal with modified conditions and direction given to staff. On November 14th, the Northwest Neighborhood Association submitted a request for reconsideration based on procedural error and new evidence. Ultimately, the Northwest Neighborhood Association asserts that the procedural error occurred during the timing of a published agenda and the submission of new evidence. They also assert appeal procedures were not followed, and that decision to uphold the appeal was based on evidence unavailable at P&Z. Ultimately, council needs to find that the request meets one of the following: A, that the party has relevant information; B, that the relevant information was not brought up at a previous hearing; or C, the information was not previously available. In conclusion, the submitted request for reconsideration does not provide relevant, new, or unavailable information. Therefore, the planning team recommends the City Council deny the request for reconsideration.
Madam Mayor, I guess first of all, it's my understanding that we can just choose not to act we don't have to actually vote to deny. Am I correct on that?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that's correct.
Thank you. I would opine that the information that the request for reconsideration notes as new was available at the hearing under which we heard this, although it might not have been available. We don't know for sure if it was available at the prior hearing, but because it was available at our hearing, I don't see any reason for reconsideration.
Does anybody else care to take action? All right. And so with that, with lack of action, the request is denied. All right. Thank you. And now we move on to the consent agenda. All items are considered to be routine by council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor, we have received a request to remove Resolution 72822 from the consent agenda and consider it separately. And I would move that we do that.
Why don't you, you're approving the consent agenda with that having been
With that,
removed?
yes, I move that we approve the consent agenda with that item removed.
Okay.
Second.
Clerk, will you call the roll?
Madam Mayor.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, before we move on, I just wanted to
Parks.
note that we are continuing to approve our resolutions with deed restrictions on many of our parks. Items 11 through 20 have those. And the other thing of note on here is our next step in remodeling Fire Station 5 is to move the fire station temporarily to Summers Funeral Home. So this has those items in there as well, which I thought was kind of fun for everyone to know that the funeral home downtown will temporarily be a fire station.
Thank you. You're right. H Hillside through Mariposa Park tonight. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Whittings. Yes. Agent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Willetts. Yes. All in favor, motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of Resolution 72822, approving professional services agreement, Exhibit 23149, independent investigation services between the City of Boise Legal Department and the Steptoe and Johnson LLP.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to point out, this is the agreement that will help our police department and our city discover what steps we need to take to ensure that our citizens are being served by police. And this firm was chosen because we really needed somebody who had experience in this area. And that wasn't something that we could find here locally, who had experience in a police department in a medium to large size city, which is why we chose this firm.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I would also note that our job as city council is to make a ruling on whether or not the contract as brought forward meets the needs of the city and meets the legal requirements for such a contract. It's frankly, up to the administration to choose the contractor and bring them forward to us. I support that this is the correct contractor for this particular job because it does meet those legal requirements. But in this case, I would also note that I believe the experience necessary for this kind of an investigation is one that is incredibly important to the city. And this contractor has demonstrated that experience.
Right. And we've had some questions from the media, and I just want to clear up. Every contract the city of Boise does has to have an end date. So we thought it most prudent to put the end date. It's not to exceed the amount of money, but then we pick the end date at the end of next year. That does not mean that the results of the investigation will not be delivered until the end of next year. So just want to clarify that it's a formality and that you can't have an open-ended contract. And so we picked a date. With that, Clerk, we call
Madam
the
Mayor,
roll. Oh, yeah,
Madam Mayor,
sorry.
I have a comment. Thanks. I appreciate the council's discussion to this point. I want to be clear that I support an independent investigation. I think it's really important that Boiseans get the facts, and they deserve the facts. There is sticker shock with this contract, and the reason there's sticker shock is that we don't have a way to compare. We don't know whether the price is fair because we have no way to provide a context. And because the city of Boise requires a public bid over $100,000, the resolution waives that requirement. So I think that's the issue that we're dealing with today. And how quickly do we need to get the investigation done? Because of the need for this investigation, I will support this motion, but I want to be clear that I am concerned about the cost. I think it does have sticker shock, and because we didn't have a comparison publicly, it's very difficult to know whether the price is fair or not.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I just want to thank Madam Mayor and my fellow council members because oftentimes when it comes to anything having to do with, for lack of a better term, diversity, equity, inclusion, anything like that, it's been my experience that people try to use a coupon. It's not really given a lot of credence. It's seen as fluff. But what brought this to light in terms of our need for taking this very, very seriously warrants that we put a dollar amount to it. And sometimes it needs to hurt in the pocketbook for people to finally take it seriously. I myself, as a public figure who became a public figure 5 years ago when I ran for office, I can honestly say I was really naive about how deep this issue is in our community. And I thank the city of Boise, I think our Arts and History Department that has shown us the history of how Boise, Idaho came to be. We often like to say, when we hear about these terrible incidents of white supremacy, of discrimination, that that's not who we are. But history says that is exactly who we are. And if we don't want to be that anymore, we have to root it out. Just like those goat heads that Councilmember Halliburton has dedicated himself to get rid of in our city, that's the way we need to treat white supremacy and discrimination. We have to root it out. And I asked Council President Pro Tem Woodings, I said, please, can we make sure that we have folks who are experienced in this type of work? And that is exactly what our mayor has done. That's exactly what this council has done, is taken this issue very, very seriously. The people we entrust to make sure that we're all okay in this community should be worthy of that trust. And if they act in a way that's contrary to that, we need to reform it. And this is a big part of it. And so I am grateful that we as a council are willing to support spending some money on this. And hopefully this will be a new day in our city to be who we say we are. We say we're not this, great. This is a first step in ensuring that.
Madam Mayor, I'll be voting in favor of the contract because serious professionals charge serious professional rates. The community demands an answer on this set of questions. This is what it's going to cost. And I look forward to, whenever it's being done, seeing what they have to say.
All right, clerk, thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Whittings.
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you all. We have one ordinance on second reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on second reading be read by number and title only and filed for the third reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 56-22, an ordinance adopting the Boise districting plan, providing a copy of the plan which includes a map of the Boise City Council seat districts and respective boundaries, providing a copy of the Boise Districting Commission staff report, which details the process and procedure used to create and certify the Boise Districting Plan and providing an effective date.
Thank you. We'll move on to third reading.
Madam Mayor, I move that further reading of ordinances 5322 and 5422 be dispensed with, and the record reflect that they have been read for the third time in full.
Second.
The motion is second. Clerk?
Whittings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. ORD 53-22, an ordinance CAR 22-00013 for property located at 2171 East Danzy Drive, amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property, particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance, and adjacent rights of way from A-1 open land to M-1D/DA light industrial with design review and a development agreement, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of such zone change and providing an effective date. ORD 54-22, an ordinance CAR 21-00032 for property located at 6780 South Cole Road, annexing 2.2 acres of certain lands and territory situated in Ada County, Idaho, adjacent and contiguous to the corporate limits of the city of Boise City, establishing and determining the land use classification of said 2.2 acres as C-2D/DA, general commercial with design review and a development agreement, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of such annexation and zone change, directing the city engineer to lodge and file a legal description and map for said annexed lands and territory, providing that copies of this ordinance shall be filed with the Ada County Auditor, the Ada County Treasurer, the Ada County Assessor, the Ada County Recorder, and the Idaho State Tax Commission, providing that a copy of said legal description and map of said annexed lands and territory be recorded with the Ada County Recorder and filed with the Ada County Assessor and the Idaho State Tax Commission as required by law, and providing an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move that ordinances 5322 and 5422 be approved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Whittings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the public hearing tonight. We've got CR 22-44 and 45 Micron Technology. Delaney, welcome back. And then I've got Paul Marcolina. Paul? Great. And Deb Nelson as the applicants. We don't expect the neighborhood association, but I just want to check in. Is neighborhood association here? Let us know if you're online. And then I'll see if there are members of the public in person that are planning on testifying on this item. And then we'll also check in online before we go to the rebuttals. And with that, jump right in. Oh, it's Tim Keen. Welcome.
Mayor, members of council, I'm going to provide an introduction to this item and then hand it off to Delaney to go through the case. I want to start by thanking staff when it was learned that Micron had chosen to make this investment in Boise weeks ago. We learned quickly that the timeline was very specific and we had to meet it. And that included the cases that you're hearing tonight. So I want to just thank Jessica Zelag's team, which includes Crystal Rain, Josh Wilson, who's with us tonight, and of course, Delaney Garlick, who will present the case, for handling this from the very beginning in a highly professional manner, establishing a schedule for them. We've actually exceeded what we expected in terms of how quickly this could get to council so that they can progress. I want to provide a little bit of context for this important investment and discussion in Boise. This is what you have on your agendas each month or each week is zoning cases. This isn't your average one. As you know, we're having a unique community discussion about growth and development right now in association with rewriting our rules for the first time in more than 50 years, our rules being our zoning ordinance. All of you have been participating in public discussions that have happened all over the city related to creating these new rules. And I wanted to mention that our work with Micron will be woven into that discussion. These are not separate conversations. They're all part of one thing. A few things that are important about that public discussion we've been having throughout the community. One is that the city must get appropriately accommodating of more housing, which means that we have to have a zoning ordinance that provides a greater mix of housing types and ensures we have density in the right places, number one. Number two, that we have to be very protective of our natural resources, and specifically that we have to have a development pattern that is less water and energy consumptive. And finally, for now, I'll mention that we have to grow in a manner that ensures more people have options for how they travel around the city. We simply cannot be the last city in America to try to build highways as the only means of transportation in their city, and we have that opportunity to do that here in Boise. Micron is certainly highly interested in these matters as well. We've begun an important conversation with them related to weaving their expansion and growth into the city that we all seek to become and that we're discussing with people all over this community. This is particularly as it relates to housing for Micron employees and transportation opportunities to serve their campus and their employees as well. So there is this enormous investment that thankfully they're making here. It doesn't change the conversation about what's important about how we grow. It actually can further that conversation. And that is a conversation we started with them, and you'll hear a lot more about in the coming weeks and months. So with that, I'm going to ask Delaney to come up and take us through this case.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before you this evening, we'll be hearing a request for annexation and rezone. To start us off, the existing Micron campus is generally located south of East Columbia Road and east of South Federal Way in Southeast Boise. The campus includes existing office, research, manufacturing, and accessory utility uses. The surrounding area is primarily comprised of industrial and commercial developments, with the exception of the Painted Ridge residential subdivision to the northeast, which is over 1,300 feet away from the annexation boundary and even further away from the development footprint. There is a regional activity center to the northwest at Federal Way in Gowan. The applicant is requesting to annex 7 parcels consisting of 358.2 acres with a zoning designation of T2D DA, Technological Manufacturing with Design Review and Development Agreement. This project extends the current campus to the east in order to bring chip manufacturing to what is predominantly a research and development facility. The subject parcels considered for annexation are within the unincorporated Ada County and currently zoned rural-urban transition. The annexation area is adjacent to existing Micron campus and is contiguous to the current city limits and within Boise's area of impact. The subject area is designated as planned community on the comprehensive plan land use map, which does permit T2D zoning. The newly annexed area will provide continuity with the existing campus and zoning to ensure cohesive and predictable development. With the request to annex to T2D DA, a concept plan identifying internal and peripheral areas is included. This is consistent with how we treat the existing campus through ordinance number 5952, which designates the outer 600 feet of the campus boundary as peripheral and all other areas and existing structures as internal. Areas within the peripheral zone are subject to design review, while development within the internal area would be exempt. A development agreement is included with the annexation and rezone due to the specific use and location of this property. A draft agreement is provided and ties this annexation and rezone to the conceptual plan submitted, identifies sustainability features, and specifies future coordination for roadways, pathways, and phasing of the campus. The City Council can add, delete, or modify these conditions. The applicant is also requesting to rezone 32.1 acres of the existing campus from T1D, which is technological industrial, to T2D, the technological manufacturing. This subject property is located at 3851 East Columbia Road. And all the applicable rezone approval criteria are satisfied as this area is designated industrial on the land use map, which supports T2 zoning. Staff finds that the T2 zone would allow for that predictable and cohesive development pattern that we expect with the rest of the campus. With this project, a traffic impact study was provided. ACHD did provide initial correspondence in your late correspondence packet. They have indicated the review and acceptance of the TIS. The scope of the TIS took into account 12 intersections and 4 roadway segments. And this development is anticipated to produce around 6,174 trips per day, with 11% occurring in the AM hours and 10% during the PM hours. Mitigation was identified for 2 intersections. One would be at Memory Road and Federal Way near the I-84 westbound off-ramp, and one at Federal Way and Gate B near the existing campus. Future development will also require right-of-way dedication and roadway construction for a future north-south arterial roadway, which would connect Columbia and Memory Road. That would occur at later phases with the campus development. Additionally, the applicant is to work and continue to have conversations with ACHD on other intersection improvements, including the one at Federal and Amity and Federal and Burgesson. With that, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, and the motion needed this evening is a final decision for the annexation and rezone, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Delaney this time?
Madam Mayor, just one quick question.
Sure, I'll go with Councilmember Halliburton, then the council president.
And this is just out of curiosity. So there was the total trips per day and it was like 10% and 11%. Is it just because Micron works with a lot of different screw shifts as far as the manufacturing aspect?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, that is correct. And maybe Micron can speak a little more to their anticipated shifts, but that is part of the reason.
Perfect. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first of all, thank you for noting that this area is already within our area of city impact. Although state law doesn't require us to stay within it anymore, I always think it is the right thing to do from a planning perspective. My question has to do with, the TIS and the late correspondence that we got from ACHD. And first of all, I'd like to thank ACHD for processing the TIS in a timely manner. I know that that was much faster than they're used to doing, and I think they actually hired a consultant to get it done. And like them to know that we understand how we appreciate that and are really grateful that they understand how important it was to get this done. So my question, as the CUP comes forward, because all we've got today is the zoning, the 2 zoning applications, that's when the actual conditions that are noted in the ACHD correspondence will be applied. Is that correct? Or will we apply them tonight to the rezone? Because we don't know the specifics yet of how they're going to work, right?
Madam Mayor, President Council Clegg, there would be no subsequent CUP or entitlement with the proposed use. So we did hear a CUP request for a height exception at Planning and Zoning. Essentially, the proposed uses are allowed in that T2 zone. So this evening would be the opportunity to include anything in the development agreement or conditions of approval.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to clarify that because it was I was not quite clear on that. So will we will then do we need to amend the conditions to include the things that ACHD provided?
Madam Mayor, President Council Clegg, we have a overall condition that has them comply with ACHD. So we feel that covers the requirements outlined by
Without
ACHD.
specifically, but in the motion, we could reference the correspondence we got from them.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. So Paul, are you speaking or is it Deb? Or, oh, it's you. Sorry, I don't have your name on here. Sorry about that.
Hello, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Beth Elroy and my address is 8000 South Federal Way. I'm the Senior Director at Micron Technology and I'm responsible for all things facilities, so operations, maintenance, engineering, and construction. And I get the amazing opportunity to be part of this construction project that is investing over $15 billion in this valley and will be creating 2,000 Micron technology jobs and up to 17,000 additional support jobs. So I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I'd like to walk you through what we really mean when we talk about the fab expansion project. This is going to expand our existing operations here in Boise. And when we talk about the fab, it's actually one building with multiple other structures that are going to be supporting that fabrication area. So with that, I will move over to thank you. The site plan. You saw this with Delaney's presentation as well. And before I walk through all the buildings, I do want to say thank you to Delaney and to the city planning, legal, and engineering teams. They have been absolutely fantastic to partner with on this journey. And I just truly appreciate their professionalism and their collaboration. So thank you, Delaney, and the rest of the city team. But working through this, what you have in front of you is the gray buildings. All of those buildings are existing structures on the Boise campus, and the colored buildings are going to be the new structures as part of the overall expansion. And so, do I have the, I don't know if you'll see this. I don't think I'll see this. Okay. So I'll direct your attention to the yellow building to the west side of the campus, so directly north of the green buildings. If people can start there. We currently have a structure, a building 51, that is finalizing the construction right now. And so the first part of the project that I want to start you with is our building 51 expansion project. And that's 92,000 square feet, expanding that existing building 51 structure. And the purpose of that expansion is to provide additional utility support, as well as where we're going to have our automated material handling system, AMHS, come out of the existing R&D footprint and travel over to the new fabrication area. So that's the first structure that is located there. Hopefully folks are following me. So traveling to the south from that building 51 structure, you're going to see two more yellow boxes. The first structure to the west is actually our administration building. And the purpose of that building is to house up to 2,000 additional team members and provide their workplace in that building. That's a 440,000 square foot administration building, and that will house a gym, a cafeteria, and as well as a parking structure that will be constructed underneath it. So that parking structure is still being finalized, up to 3,000 spots in that parking structure underneath that administration building. So to the east of that administration building, you see the next yellow block. That is our probe building. That is a 365,000 square foot building that includes 83,000 square feet of clean room space. And the purpose of that building is really the final testing of our wafers before we ship them off for additional packaging and assembly. So what I spoke to with that automated material handling system, that AMHS, it's going to come out of 50, it's going to traverse through that probe building and then over to the fab building. So the fab building is that big yellow box that says fab. And what that includes is 600,000 square feet of clean room space that is going to be a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility, bringing back domestic semiconductor manufacturing to the United States that we're very excited about. So from that point, what you have to the south of the fab are production support buildings, and that's about 350,000 square feet of space. And the purpose of those production support buildings are to provide space for materials that are being stored, as well as gas storage to support basically the fab operations. And then north of the fab, you'll see our central utility building. What the purpose of that building, it's about 450,000 square feet, and that is where all of the facility systems will be housed to support the fabrication building. So our chillers, our boilers, that type of equipment will be located in that building. Then as you continue to travel to the north, you see an electrical yard. That's where we'll obviously have our transformers and electrical distribution equipment to support this building, as well as a water treatment building. and that's about 620,000 square feet in order to provide the type of water that we need for the semiconductor manufacturing process and wastewater treatment in that 620,000 square feet. And there'll also be a gas plant that you see off to the east side. And the purpose of that gas plant are separation columns that use ambient air to separate out nitrogen and oxygen from the air for our manufacturing purposes. And then the last thing, as you continue to travel north, that we did touch on the rezoning for the mask area. There's also going to be a building 81, which is an additional 30,000 square feet of clean room space that allows us to produce the masks required for the photolithography step in that fabrication building. So with that, it's very large, it's very, very exciting. And I do want to share on the next slide another rendering that just gives you some perspective of the admin building, the probe building, the fab, the production support, and the central utility building. So that's just another rendering for some perspective. And before I turn it over to Deb to walk through the specific applications, I do want to share our sustainability commitments that we're making as part of this fab expansion project. I'm excited to share that we will be operating this fab on 100% renewable energy. Micron has made a commitment by calendar year 2025, all US manufacturing operations will be running on 100% renewable energy. And so that includes this fab. So we're really excited about that opportunity. We're also going to be, the fab building will be LEED certified gold. So we're excited about that. We're also committed to a 42% absolute reduction from our baseline 2018 greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. And that includes the emissions from this manufacturing operation. And that's an absolute reduction from that baseline. That's going to help us on our journey by 2050, hitting 100% net zero impact with our greenhouse gas emissions. So we're very focused on integrating and designing innovative sustainability solutions into this space. And we're also very focused on our water commitment, where we're driving water conservation with this building through recycling, through reduction, through conservation activities. And so we are very committed to our sustainability activities with this footprint as well, not just here in Boise, but around the world. And before I hand it over to Deb, one last thing I'll share is our schedule. We are looking to actually pour concrete by the spring of next year, 2023, with our goal to be ready for manufacturing by 2025. So those are our targets, and that's what our director was talking about, very aggressive timelines, and we do appreciate everyone's help in helping us meet those timelines. So with that, I'll turn it over to Deb to talk more about the applications.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Deborah Nelson, 601 West Street, Bannock and Boise. Pleasure to be with you this evening. Delaney has covered this very well. I want to reiterate the thanks that Tim shared with his team and that Beth has shared for everyone we've been working with in the city. Everyone has been working very hard on a collaborative way for a very important project. And we appreciate that this means that people have put in extra hours and time and have had a lot of attention to detail, and it's been very appreciated. Just a quick highlight, we've got the two applications left for you this evening with the annexation with T2 zoning, a rezone of the existing campus from T1 to T2, just in that triangle, that little blue triangle you can see there. And we do have the proposed development agreement. The commission did recommend approval of both of these applications, and they did finally approve the CUP for the height exception to allow the gas separation columns to be up to 185 feet and the fab building itself to be up to 175 feet. And there was no appeal of that decision, and so that is final. The annexation application proposes annexation of 358 acres with that T2D zoning. The annexation area is adjacent to the current campus. It is proper because it is contiguous to the current city limits and the areas within the city's area of city impact. The requested T2 zoning is also proper because the zone provides continuity with the existing campus's zoning, and the comprehensive plan supports T2 zoning. We have intentionally left a significant buffer of approximately 1,300 feet to the neighboring residential use to the east from the edge of the annexation area. Services are available to serve the project expansion into the annexation area. The Micron campus has 4 existing access points. The majority of the new occupied facilities are on the south end of the Micron campus. The primary access for the new fab and administration building will be via Gate C, the southernmost existing access into the campus. Utilizing Gate C to access the expansion facilities will help to distribute trips to the underutilized Eisenman exit at the south end of Federal Way. The applicant has done a traffic study, as was noted, that identifies recommended mitigation, which ACHD has reviewed and approved. Micron is agreeable and to the conditions of approval that have been incorporated into the staff report and have been stated in ACHD's comments. Micron will also continue to work with ACHD and the city on future road improvements in the area, including the future road that is included in the capital improvements plan to be constructed 2036 to 2040 to connect up to Columbia Road and provide additional access for residents northeast of the campus. That coordination will include determining appropriate right-of-way and the location of this road. The rezone application requests the city to rezone approximately 32 acres within the current campus from T1D to T2D. This rezone is supported by the comprehensive plan, which designates this property as industrial. The rezone is also compatible with the surrounding T2 zoning and will provide development continuity on Micron's campus and ensure the same uses and development standards are applicable to the entire campus. With that, we would stand for any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Deb. Any questions?
Madam Mayor. Thanks, Deb. You touched on the one question that remained for me, given the late correspondence from ACHD, and that is the location of the north-south roadway called for in the CIP. Clearly, it can't be in the location that's currently identified because that would go right through the middle of the new building. And so I think what I heard you say is that you're committed to finding a new path for that roadway, a new right-of-way, recognizing that you don't own all of the land to the south where it will have to come back to Memory Lane. Is that what I heard you say?
Madam Mayor, Council President, that's correct.
Thank you.
Anything further? All right, I want to thank you both.
Thank you.
I have nobody signed up on this item, but there are many of you in the room. Is anybody here to testify on the Micron annexation? Sure, come on up.
Madam Mayor, council members, I'm Neil Mercer from 6920 East Opus out there. So one of the things that I think need to gets corrected is there's not only just the one subdivision out there, there's another 4 kind of out there that are all kind of affected by Micron moving out there, which we're happy to have Micron move out. The only thing that I'm really up here for is it seems like the timelines do keep getting pushed up, and I understand that they're under a strict timeline as well. Just want to make sure that things are being done, I'm not above the board. I expect that out of all of you anyways. But, just making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed kind of thing. And really the big reason why I'm up here is out in that area, in that part of town. Eventually we're going to be developing a little bit more, right? There's already a plat for 900 more homes out in that area behind some of those subdivisions. And what we don't have is a plan. So we have that big plan that's already been kind of talked about, but no strategic plans or tactical plans of what facilities are going to be there, like in regards to schools and stuff. So we've got Trailwind out in that area, which is already full. And if we now build those other 900 homes and then keep developing out in that area, we're not going to have the school to support them. And I understand that the ISD is just that, right? Independent from Boise. That being said, I know that you guys are working together. So we need to have plans for schools as well as parks. We haven't really got much out there. I think of everywhere else in Boise, and pretty much everywhere else in Boise kids or people can walk along sidewalks to get to a park or to their school or to wherever, whereas we don't have sidewalks out down Columbia Road, and it is starting to develop. So I just would like to ask the council that as we move forward in the future with this, just keep it in the back of your cranium that we need a little more services out there. We're, paying taxes and we're seeing it go to other developments that already have, established, parks, and now they get another park or some more around it. It'd be nice if some of that came out our way so that we felt like we weren't being forgotten about by the city. And that's all I really have to say.
Thanks for being
All
here.
right, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Sure.
I
Sir, would
could
you take it?
comment on
Excuse me,
that.
sir. Did you say Ms. Mercer? Ms.
thank you.
Mercer?
I don't really have a question, but just a comment for you.
Yes.
We have not approved any further development out there because of the lack of secondary access. One of the reasons I noted that secondary access will at some point be part of this is that it will allow for us to begin planning again for more development to the east. And as our planning director noted, we're going to need a lot of housing for these wonderful jobs that Micron's bringing. So I guess I would look forward to what the future holds in terms of planning out there. And thank you for bringing it to our
And I
attention.
understand that there is no plan because of the land, the way the land is held right now. And I understand that, but we all know that's just a matter of time before that situation changes. And so I just want to make sure that we're preparing for that future.
I appreciate you being here. Would encourage you to stay involved. I also need to ask you to write your name and address down on that, just so we've got it for our records. And thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Anyone else here for this topic? All righty. Is anybody online here to testify on the Micron annexation? No. Well, with that, we could do rebuttals. If there's something to rebut.
We would just waive that time and stand for any further questions.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Deb, I have a question. Could you just point out where the nearest subdivision is on the map?
Delaney, would you mind pulling? up
Delaney
our
will probably
map
need to
again?
give us a different map.
Oh,
We could see
this
it in
one.
one of the pictures. That it's the little
That's-
bitty square.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Councilmember Willetts, that's the distance that we said was the 1,300 feet between the edge of the closest residential area to the annexation area.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then Mr. Mercer was talking about a subdivision that's not on these maps. Yeah, there's probably the final 5 years that I was on council or so, they came through and one after the other. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate you pointing out that our staff is working diligently because meeting these deadlines is a priority of ours. And that's why the council approved also the new positions. So, sir, when you're talking about how this work is getting done, we have with the fees that we expect from this development, hired or prepared to hire for people that can continue to work alongside Micron on this specific project so that other business in the city doesn't fall behind. Because it is incredibly important that we do this well in partnership with Micron and on time. And this is the first step. So really exciting. And Beth, thanks for sharing your sustainability work. The climate action that Micron's doing is the partner that we want to see in this city. And we are really grateful for the fact that you're meeting your clean energy goals because it helps us meet ours, as well as everything else that you're doing. So that partnership and shared values is really important to us. And of course, appreciate the investment and what that means for our schools, even though we don't oversee them, for our universities, and importantly for jobs of the future. I was at a STEM thing this morning with kindergartners, first graders, and third graders. They were all grades, but those are the ones I went into. And I was thinking about those third graders will be in college when these jobs, like 10 years from now, we expect to see these 2,000 STEM jobs in the city. These third graders that we're coding today with these like fun cartoon blocks, will be in college, many of whom likely will be at Boise State and other places studying STEM fields, and then be able to come home for these jobs that will be starting. And so just kind of bookending that day is really exciting too, thinking about the kids this morning and what this annexation means in terms of the first steps in making this investment possible, and the prosperity that means for our people in the long run is really quite striking. And so with that, I'm happy to open it to others, and then we'll go ahead and call the vote. because I've closed the public hearing.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move that we approve CAR 22-44 Micron Technology, Inc. at 8,000 South Federal Way, annexation of approximately 358.2 acres with a T2DDA zoning and development agreement, and approval of CAR 22-45 Micron Technology, Inc. at 3851 East Columbia Road, a rezone of approximately 32.1 acres from T1D to T2D with DA design, technological manufacturing design review and development agreement zone.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
Madam Mayor, I noted that I was thankful that ACHD took the time and effort to make sure that they commented on this timely. I have to now note that our own staff really put in extraordinary effort to make sure that we got this application in a timely manner, that they worked with Micron to do that. And thank you to Micron, as the mayor noted, for your sustainability efforts, for bringing these jobs to Boise, for the future that I think this portends for this area of town. It's a pretty exciting day. In my motion, I didn't note that we got late correspondence from ACHD and they made recommendations, but I'm confident because the DA notes that you have to meet ACHD recommendations that we didn't need to do that. I guess the last thing I'd say is that this area has been on the city's radar for a very long time. And the jobs that we foresee coming because of the development that Micron is doing will not only support the Micron jobs and the support jobs for it, but will create a real synergy, I believe, with the whole industrial area south of the airport. And I hope portend more manufacturing and not just warehousing and distribution that we have been seeing. So with that, I'm fully support of this rezone as both an appropriate zone for this area, but also one that fully meets the goals of our comprehensive plan for the area. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, to everything that the council president just added, I want to add, and I didn't see this map in our packet for some reason. I don't know if I overlooked it, but I saw it in your presentation that the annexed area is going to have a section around the perimeter that will require design review, which I thought was just really thoughtful for all those neighborhoods that are going to be around there at some point for all that development. So I just wanted to note that and note that as annexation keeps being a topic of discussion around our state and where we annex and what we annex, it just always feels good to annex something that's just in the right spot to do it. So we knew this was coming. This isn't a surprise, but it still is just a little bit gratifying to be like, this is a perfect annexation. So thank you for bringing it to us. And I really look forward to this project and what it'll mean for our community and you guys being such incredible partners in sustainability. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, this is super exciting. I feel really lucky that I get to be on council as this project comes along. It's really historic for our city. And Madam Mayor kind of stole one of my talking points earlier as far as getting to hang out with some third graders earlier today. And they asked us this question about what do we wish that we had more time for, which is a really brilliant question coming from a third grader. And in one form or another, we all answered was more time to really think about the future, to spend time hanging out with these kids and thinking about the Boise that we want to see for them. And this really is it. It's these high paying jobs. It's these neighbors who want to make sure that when this is being developed, that we're also looking at the neighborhood around it. And we're doing all these things at the same time to make our city better at the same time that we're getting this incredible place for people to work. I grew up as an HP kid. I'm not sure if you're allowed to bring that up when you're talking about Micron, but it was a community for me when I was growing up, and that's how we found our friends. And that's really what this is. It's a mini city. It's got its own, public works department in there. It's got all these different types of things that are really helping us grow and creating a community in a really important part of town. So I just think it's really tremendously exciting. And like I said, I feel lucky to be on council as this moves along.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And Delaney, thank you again. And Josh, please give our thanks to the team. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Whittings. Yes. Agent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And there's nothing else before us this evening.
Madam Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Do a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.